TJ the Wheel Joe coming at you live. It is, what is it? Wednesday. It's Wednesday, November the 13th at 10:18 a.m. Central Time, Texas Time. Running a little bit late. I was helping out a gentleman, a friend of the channel, a member, longtime member of the channel. He's in a little bit of a bind with SoFi covered calls, but it turns out that it's really just a emotional psychological issue. It's not an actual issue because the shares are here and his strike price is here, but it's gone up very aggressively since he sold the covered calls. So he's just feeling the pressure, which is pretty normal. That's why we just try to play a game of math. At the end of the day, we just want to play the game of math, keep it simple. Anyway, how are you guys this morning? Let me check in with you guys. What's going on, Ellie? What's going on, Sharksteros, EG Trades? What's going on? I hope you guys are doing well. What's going on, Jill O, SJ, Daniel Garrett? What would you do with $9 cover calls for January? I would have already rolled them or bought the close or bought some freaking leaps. Something. You got to do something. Rocket Labs. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the stock is. Hey, what's going on, Hookem? That's right. Almost went shopping yesterday. I saw a Tag Heuer watch, a UT with the Texas emblem in it, embroidered somehow or engraved. Aqua Racer, Formula One, something like that. It's like a $4,000 or $5,000 watch. I feel like those watches are more like 2,500 or so, but I think you're paying like a lot more just to have the little Longhorn in there. Anyway, I wanted to buy it, but then I just couldn't come to terms with it because I felt like I was paying like an extra grand just because I wanted my alma mater's emblem on there. Is fucking ridiculous. So I couldn't do it. Anyway, what's going on, Zava, and what's going on? They're on a Pluto mission, or maybe they're going to Mars. I don't know which was. I guess Mars is farther than the moon. I don't know. It's been a long time since we did the whole Earth third rock from the sun thing when we were kids, right? What do you think about Bit Farms? I think that we own a bunch of shares of Bit Farms indirectly because of Riot. I tried being in Bit Farms early. I just couldn't. I just don't like to study a lot of companies, guys. That's why when I pick my horses, I'm kind of stubborn because taking on another company just means a lot more work. Thinking about rolling my $13 strikes prices for Sophia on Friday, right on. Not the worst business in the world, not the worst idea. Yo, TJ, check out Rolex's market down now. You can get a fantastic deal. Now's the time to buy if you're a watch guy. The only Rolex that I like is the Daytona. That's it. White dial Daytona. That's it. The other, I don't like them. I think they're too dainty. You hit them, they fucking break. My brother-in-law's got fucking couple $1,000,000 worth of stupid watches. So I've seen them all. I see them all the time, and I'm just like, dude, those Rolexes. First of all, they're not even accurate. My old little fucking $5,000 Grand Carrera Tag Heuer, they're both automatic, right? You wind them up or whatever. You do this little deal on your wrist, and then like a day later, my freaking Tag Heuer is just like a little bit more accurate than the Rolex. Pretty pathetic, actually. And I remember there was an interview that I saw from Elon Musk talking to the Rolex CEO or something like that, and they were like, "Y'all should make y'all's watches more accurate." It was like y'all should really fix that. And the guy like gave some long song and dance bullshit. So I just think the Rolex is cool. So it's about a static symbol. They're beautiful watches, but I'm just like, I just feel like my tag, I can't beat it and shit, and it's like it's all good. It's $5,000, right? It's not gonna hurt anything. But you're wearing 30, 40, $50,000 piece on your fucking watch, and it's like now you're like worried and scared everywhere you go. I ain't about that life. Like I live a rough and rugged lifestyle. And sometimes if I'm wearing my tag and I find myself at the gym or at the golf course, like I don't even worry about it. It's like, whatever, I bang it up, no big deal. So anyway, I think everybody has to just do whatever makes sense for them. My wife's a Rolex person. She's got a couple of them. She loves them. What's going on, David, Rick, Mitch? Yes, Savin does have the good deals. For sure, for sure, for sure. I was interested in a tag recently, but I want a white dial because of the movie Jerry Maguire. It turns out that the one I was interested in is a silver dial, so I kind of got depressed a little bit. I worried, just worried during your videos because you're right. Definitely don't want to muck up Rolex's whole value. Yeah, those are, that is also true. That is also true. I'm just a firm believer in spending money on things that I actually like. And I just, me personally, for me, again, this is just for me. There's other things I'd rather spend money on. My wife, she'd probably have 10 of them if she was, if I was okay with it. And I love her watches on her. Like, I just don't want to be a Rolex guy. I mean, when I get to 100 million, I feel like I'd be worthy of wearing it. I just feel like it's a status symbol that I'm just not comfortable with at the level that I'm at in life. I just feel like I haven't climbed the ranks yet. So I'm still on the come up, and then maybe one day I can justify it. Stephen Grummett, but they do hold their value. Wondering if you have an opinion on hymns. Uh, I think it's great. I don't know why. Like this is one of those things that's so weird about me. I think it's so weird about investing is I think there's a lot of great companies out there that it's like I feel like I know they're gonna make money, but for whatever reasons, I just don't want to be a part of it. Maybe it's because I like the horses in my stable, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm a farmer. I'm raising these horses, and I like them. I'm happy with them. So I don't have that shiny object syndrome. So it's real hard for me to want to add another horse to the stable because you got to feed it, you got to nourish it, you got to exercise it, all this shit. And I'm speaking, metaphorically, but it's because I own horses. And it's like it's such a pain in the ass to bring another horse into the stable because it's also expensive. And I feel like that's kind of the way that it is with stocks for me. It's like, okay, cool. Bringing in another stock, that's like another earnings report. It's another 10, it's another 10K, another 10Q. It's all that shit, man. So I think maybe it's just like laziness or lack of motivation, lack of ambition. I'm not sure. Not sure what it is, but I just don't have to be a part of every great company. I don't know that Hims is great. I think it's really, really good though. Just like Rocket Labs. I'm thankful that I bought 20,000 shares of Rocket Labs, but you ain't gonna see me talking about Rocket Labs because I don't want to really learn the story. Like I'm just like, y'all want to keep going up, fantastic. I'm itchy trigger fingers trying to sell the damn thing because I'm up a lot, but I gotta like maybe invest an hour or two and watch Matt Money's channel and see what they have to say. Maybe there's a lot more run in this thing. And that's when you're not invested. You haven't invested any time. You haven't done any homework. It's really, really hard to pick an exit. I feel like it's easier to pick an entry because you're just like gambling a little bit, but it's hard to pick an exit on the winner if you're not like that involved in the story. That's on Enphase at 60. It's interesting. I can't do anything with it. I'm on probation because I tax harvest lost. So I can't do anything for like 27, 28 more days. So I ain't even trying to go there. I don't even want to look at the chart. What's going on, guys? David, exact same with Rocket Labs, right? No kidding. Love to make money on it, but I can't give a shit to learn. That's the reality of it, man. That is the reality of it. I'm just the one to admit that I'm a little bit lazy, right? Like I'm just like, man, I don't want to. It's like I'm trying to study for the Series 65. That's going to be like something that I do at the end now. It's like incorporating a little 10, 15-minute segment to y'all can watch how much I don't know about this shit. I know how to sell put, sell cost, collect premium on my handful of stocks. That's it. That's what I'm good at. It's like a one trick pony. It's a very good trick financially. But other than like all these macros and all this shit, fiscal policy, monetary policy, my goodness, man. Freaking bores me to tears. So it's hard. Like my attention span's just not there. Anyway, so we did a little bit of live Q&A there. We're going to do portfolio update. Let me see if I can figure this out here. So we'll just call it the 10-minute mark. Port update. and go from there. Let me see if StreamYard present. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Here we go. So portfolio is bleeding a little bit, nothing crazy. So what I want to do is I just want to talk about the expiring options. Expiring options, I'm going to focus this portfolio update right here. These are all the expiring options from now to the end of the year. So this is kind of like a seminar number 2, because it's going to be a lot of Q&A. It's going to be a lot of drilling, or it's going to be a lot of examples, a lot of drilling. Like, why did I sell this put? Why did I sell this call? Why am I looking to take assignment? Why am I looking to just buy the close? Why am I looking to roll, etc.? Because it's all situational. It is all situational. So let's talk about the first one. Palantir covered call. How did I get into this thing? I bought the leaps, right? So when I closed out 20,000 shares for a pretty nice profit, I took 100 grand and I bought leaps at 65 for January of 2027, but because I didn't think the leaps were a good deal, I'm like, immediately I'm going to sell covered calls against these leaps so I can bring in $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000 through the door. That way my net out of pocket's like 94, 95, 96 versus 101 or whatever it was. So that was the idea. And I was like, at 65, 1129, no way Palantir's going to get there. Of course, I'm probably going to be wrong. So I was like, well, I know that I'm just going to roll. At some point, this thing does have to slow down. That's the logic. It's already run up a lot. And I'm like, how much more can it possibly run? So here we are. So collected 33.25, collected 2,600, already underwater right now. But I'm like, okay, I'm underwater because of the price action, but I'm not really underwater from the standpoint that it is below the strike price. And it's definitely below the break-even price, which is 66.18. So I am not going to do anything with this option until it breaches 66.18, but I will definitely roll up and out more than likely for a credit and add a month or so to the contract each and every time. Now, on the actual underlying itself, meaning the long call that I bought, which is right over here. What is the goal with this thing? The goal with this thing is for it to print money somehow. I thought I would already be down like 20 grand, to be honest. That's just the way that I thought it was going to happen. Evidently, I'm wrong. I'm glad to be wrong. That's the cool thing about still being on Team Palantir. It's like, if this thing wants to keep going to ridiculous valuations that don't make any sense to me, that doesn't mean I can't make dollars, right? That's why I say dollars and cents. It's like, hopefully it makes both. It makes dollars and it makes sense. This one doesn't make any sense, but it's making a lot of dollars. So I'll take it. I'll take it. But I'm looking to flip this contract. I could see a world where I would take ownership of these shares at 65, exercise these contracts. But Palantir would probably have to be at $115 or $120 at that point for me to do it, because the break even's 85.80. So I covered that one. That's what's going on with Palantir. SOXL, cash grab. That's it. Just a cash grab. Did these a couple days ago, yesterday. I guess today's the 13th, right? Yeah, so yesterday sold these. I thought 28's great. Now it turns out that maybe it's going to end up being 27, 26, 25. I don't know. What am I going to do? I'm going to roll. I don't want to own these shares. I'm cash grabbing. The premiums were pretty good. Tie up 280 grand for a couple of weeks. You get paid 10,700. It turns out that if I did it today, I could do another 13 too. I've considered doing it. But then I'm like, now, dude, it's kind of crazy at 28 right now, because this thing's really, really volatile. It's semiconductor, 2 times leverage, all that stuff. Maybe just do nothing. Let this trade play out for a little bit. But if it's still underwater and then we got like 2 or 3 days have come off the contract, then I can consider 28s, because then now the return that I'm getting, the cash on cash return that I'm getting, if it stays above 28, is just too sexy to not like to pass it up. And then I can always just roll later. And so I could stay at 28, roll down. Now, if I had to take ownership, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I prefer not to. But at $25, I'll take a gamble. It'll be a calculated gamble, kind of like TSLL, kind of like the freaking BITX, that kind of things. Like I'm going to own them, but just for a little bit. I want to write them up for $3 to $5. Let the shares called away. That's how I'm playing the 2 times leverage. I'm not trying to own these for the long haul, just like on TSLL. Like even though I was up a lot, just like on BITX, even though I was up a lot, paying a shitload of premium on BITX, I stuck to the game plan. I feel like these are not instruments. After having studied them a little bit, I feel like they're not instruments that are meant to be held on for the long term as far as share ownership. Sell puts on them all day long, sell short dated covered calls on them all day long. But I'm going to take what the market gives me. And I feel like the swings are so vicious that there's always going to be another opportunity. And maybe not on SOXL, but maybe it's going to be TSLL, maybe it's NVDL, maybe it's the Amazon one. There's always going to be something with these leverage plays. I love them, but I feel like I have learned how to trade them, and I'm going to stay in my lane. Celsius, what are we doing with Celsius? This is just a cash grab. Would I be okay owning some Celsius at $25? The answer is yes, but it's a trade. I don't see a world where Celsius is going to graduate into an investment, and I've got a Celsius right here. I like them. I don't love them. I like them. I don't love energy drinks, period, but I'm using it right now because I stayed up late. I had a late workout. And then I watched like 4 or 5 episodes of Power Book 2. So I finished off season 4. I didn't know those extra 5 or 6 episodes were in the can. I found that out a couple days ago. So I binge watched it, which is what I do with my favorite shows. So I'm tired. So I'm using the Celsius as a little kind of get me up, if you will. I like them. This is a cash grab. That's it. It's for sold them 11/11. It's for 12/13, so a little over a month. Collected $9,200, tied up 250 grand. I don't want to add any more contracts. I'll just babysit those. Hopefully, it dips to like 25.50, and then I can put these on again, and then maybe lower the strike price to 24, 23. Now at that point, it really starts getting compelling as a swing trade. I'm like, if I can take ownership at 24, 23, or do this 3 or 4 times successfully, take ownership at 25, I could totally see a world where this thing goes to 30 pretty quickly. And I like to make that $5 in capital appreciation, make some premiums along the way. So we'll go through the entire revolution of the wheel cycle, the wheel strategy with this one. Hood. This one, not very stressful. Not very stressful. I'd actually be okay taking ownership of these, believe it or not. Like I'm okay with another 5,000 shares at 30, average up on the position. The premiums are good. I can sell aggressive covered calls, bring in more premiums that way. I think Robinhood's going to be a monster, guys. I think that it's going to be a monster. We'll see. We'll see. I'd rather own them at like 26, 27, but I don't know if the market's going to give that to us. We'll see what happens. Intel. $24 cash secured puts. This is a cash grab. My target price to take ownership of more Intel shares would be at $22 per share. So I would have to roll a couple of times, get to $22, and then I'd be like, okay, let's double down on the position. That's going to bring the average down to like 25. Like sell very aggressive covered calls, bring in probably about $25,000 a month on $800,000 or $900,000 worth of Intel. I think that we can manufacture them. That's what's going on with Intel. So I'm actually okay taking ownership of Intel, but not at those levels. Boeing, this is a cash grab, gone bad. It's actually gone really, really bad now. I want to take ownership of Boeing at 140. So I have these at 150. So I would have to babysit these and roll them out and down, out and down, out and down, and do that over and over until we can get to that $140 strike price. Or there's another thing that I do in these situations is if it gets to my price, my target price, my acquisition price, I will just buy the shares outright, and then I'll roll these indefinitely until I can get out from under them completely. And then I've already accomplished the goal. I own the shares at the price that I wanted. I just screwed the pooch on the cash secured puts. I'll have to roll down and out, down and out, down and out until I can eventually buy to close for a pretty large profit overall. So it takes a while. That's why, again, it's a 25, 25, 50 strategy. So this is 25% of the allocation total that I would be comfortable with Boeing. So I would have to be ready at 140, maybe 135, 130, and just be like, well, I'm going to buy 2,500 shares outright over there. That way, if I don't feel like continuing to roll these, I'll just be like, screw it. I'll take ownership of these at 150, buy the shares outright at 125, 130, have an average of like 140, and then just sell covered calls at those levels, get half of the shares called away, and then I'm riding with the 2,500 shares that I wanted all along. So there's different ways to play the game. It's capital intensive, but again, this is just all predetermined based on acquisition price targets, what I'm comfortable with financially, etc. Again, you got to run your hamburger stand the way that it makes sense to you. PayPal covered calls at 90. What am I doing with those? Gonna roll if I have to. I'm hoping I don't have to. I'm hoping that Palantir would just expire worthless. And this is printing. Bought some leaps. Again, it was very similar to the Palantir situation. I bought leaps that I thought were a horrible deal on PayPal, and they're working out, and I'm bringing some money through the door. Obviously, I could have gotten more premiums, but it is what it is. I was happy with the 2,200 at the time, and I'm hoping that the next round will bring in $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000, and then this will have like a $95 or $100 price tag on it for the strike, and I'll feel really, really good. And this is what I'm talking about on PayPal. I bought some leaps a while ago, not that long ago, 75 leaps expiring in June of 2026. I did not think these were a good deal. I'm very surprised, pleasantly surprised, very happy to be up $14,700 on those leaps. I just bought these not that long ago, guys, a couple of months. So that's what's going on with PayPal. There's a much larger position in PayPal as well, but we'll talk about that one later. And then this is the biggest cash grab that I got going on now. This is the Riot cash grab at $10. Cash secured put at $10. If you're newer to the channel, cash secured put is simply an agreement to buy shares at a certain price on a certain day, typically below today's prices. You're getting paid essentially upfront a premium to put your money up as collateral for buying these shares at a discount, or agreeing to buy these shares at a discount. And the reason that I have 400 contracts here is because I want to increase the Riot position overall to 150,000 shares. It's sitting at 110. Do I really want to own these shares at 10? The answer is absolutely not. 9 or 8, we're talking. 9 or 8, we're talking. At 10, no, we're cash grabbing, and happy to cash grab. So we did, you'll see it all right there. We did 14 contracts, got 46 cents, got 186 contracts, 44 cents a share, 44 a contract. And then today, a while ago, did 200 contracts, got 43 cents. So we're there. We ain't doing anything else. Don't want to exceed more than 400 cash secured puts. 150,000 is the absolute maximum amount of shares that I want to own of Riot in this portfolio. Here's the Intel covered calls, 1227. This would put Intel profitable if these were to get called away. Right now, I'm saying I don't want the shares to get called away, but at the same time, that would be probably about 600 grand or so, whatever it is, right? 20,000 shares times 28. Let me get a calculator here real quick. Yeah, 560 grand. Woo! And then I could sell cash secured puts, keep doing this. I could see a world where I'd be okay letting those shares get called away and just getting back into cash. Why? Because cash is a position, and I'm at 3.5 in cash. I'm okay getting to 4 because I'm seeing it already. What am I seeing? I can make a shitload of money just on premiums here, and it's pretty low stress. Even when they're getting challenged, they don't stress me. So cash secured puts are just easier for me to manage than covered calls. They're just easier for me. So my hamburger stand loves cash secured puts. As much as I love owning shares and selling covered calls, when it comes to owning shares and selling covered calls against shares that I don't really want to sell, that's harder. Bringing that static premium through the door, like hitting my metrics of 3 to 4% a month, realizing 2.5% a month, it's just a hell of a lot easier. It's more predictable for me with cash secured puts. That's why I am trying to get this up to $5 million. The brokerage cash, the individual cash at $5 million. I just think the account will be a lot more balanced. So the last thing I want to show you all is my 8 horses. This is where we landed after 3 years. We got SoFi, we've got Riot, we've got Tesla, Amazon, PayPal, Intel, Hood, and Palantir. So that is what's going on with them. This is going to be on equity. And I've got them in order from highest allocation to lowest allocation. So Palantir went from at one point being number 1, number 2, all the way down to number 8 because I sold the 20,000 shares of Palantir yesterday. But before I did that, I bought the 50 long calls. That way I maintain the upward exposure. And then I'm going to be long these 4,000 shares. There's nothing that Palantir is going to do on these 4,000 shares to shake me out. And I'm going to babysit those covered calls forever, essentially, until I can catch up to them, because I don't really think these cover calls are that underwater. I think in 6 months or so, I'd be able to roll them to like 55, 60, and we'll play that game. And I feel good about it. But the average did go up to 33 from 17 because it's the first in, first out, all that stuff. So I do love that Robinhood is doing all of that for you already. And that's what the wheel tracker says. The wheel tracker says it's like 33, 31 or something. So it's very, very close. So that's what's going on with all of it. Live Q&A time, guys. We'll call it the 27-minute mark for live Q&A. And see if anybody would like to join as well. I will put the link in the chat here again. And then after live Q&A, we're going to get a little bit of study on. Y'all are going to watch me fail miserably at all of these stupid quizzes on the Series 65 because I got to get the studying in. I'm going to take the test on February the 3rd. We'll see how it goes. So I got to dedicate 2 or 3 hours a day to this project. And so you guys will see me do, 10, 20, 30 minutes a day, and so on and so forth. Be real cool. Brandon could join. Oh, yeah, with that segment, boring myself to tears trying to get through these lessons, man. And monetary policy and fiscal policy and all this other stupid shit. My goodness. Anyway, let me catch up with you guys. Appreciate all of you guys this morning. We got 147 people on YouTube. Appreciate each and every one of you guys, the 449 people that clicked the link on Twitter, on X. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Let me catch up with you guys here in the chat. Where did we leave off? Hey, TJ, do you think SoFi is a good buy at this level? It's a good question. 5 years from now, or even 2 years from now, I think it's going to prove to be a good buy. But do I really think it's a good buy at these levels today? No. But I feel like I can still manufacture the win at these levels. I'd buy like 100 shares, sell aggressive cover calls against those shares, sell the cash that puts on them, and do that and bring some steady money through the door. I think that there's a way to make money with SoFi at these levels. But do I think it's a good buy right here, right now, today? No. But that's not really what investing is. Investing is you're paying for something today because you think it's going to be worth a lot more tomorrow. So that creates your value. But if you just think you're just getting a great deal on these shares right now, today, the answer is no. It would have to grow into the valuation and prove that it is like legitimately these crazy discounts and stuff. So I think that there's some alpha there, but it's one of those things. I think so. If I could dip to $12 very quickly, just like I think Palantir could dip to 50 very, very quickly. So it just depends on what your situation is. So where are we here? I think we did this one. What's going on, Dylan? David, the exact same way. Rocket Lab. We did this one. What's going on, Tradesman? We did this one. Celsius hit 25 yesterday. Good time to sell puts at 20. Nice. Yeah. I already sold them at 25 though. So there's no more money that I was willing to allocate. You see, that's the thing. It's like I had the 25 to 25 to 50 rules, right? To scale into a position. Well, the problem with that end phase or with Celsius is I went in with 50, right? I did 25 and 25. So I was just like, screw it. 25 is the number. I'm good. So I'm doing 100 contracts. But if I had to like take ownership of those shares and then buy, double the position, I'm gonna want to double it at like 15 or 16. If not, I would never deploy any more money. So I'm pretty much, at 50% of all the money that I would ever want to put into that stock. David, how easy or difficult was it for you to switch from being an employee to have your own business? I am asking because changing 30-year habits is not easy for me. So I started off as an entrepreneur, right out of right out of college. So hi Brandon.
Hey, we doing?
So I had that mindset, guys, already, and then I only took on jobs throughout my life because I couldn't get businesses to work at that time. So I never really wanted to work for anybody. But then I went through a divorce and like a depression and all that stuff. This was like in 2009, 10. So that's when my brother said, hey, you should look to get into the oil field. My brother was in the oil field working for a company called Schlumberger and then Weatherford. And he was like, hey, you need to go get that steady money, build up a 401k, make sure that your life's good financially, and then you can go chase your dreams. So it just took me back to that cash flow quadrant where you have like the employee, the self-employed on one side, and you have the business owners and the investors on the other side. And I had been playing business owner for a lot, but it just made sense. It was prudent for me to go play on the employee side for a little bit longer before I could go chase my dreams. So I think you can work on the mindset the whole time that you have a job. That way, whenever you do make that transition, it becomes a little bit easier. Anyway, hope that helps out. What's going on, Brandon? Welcome to the channel. How's everything going, my man?
I can't complain. Just day by
Brother,
day.
brother, let me go get my hat because I want to tip my hat. Hold on.
Let's get the hat.
Here we go. So I got the Palantir hat on because sold 20,000 shares of Palantir yesterday.
Yeah. Yep.
Brother, how the fuck did you even pass these exams, yo? I'm having such a hard time even. Dude, like my ADHD, LMNOP, like, dude, this shit it's actually very interesting, but it's boring. It's boring, and I feel like I'm in like that econ class back in college, but I'm the only idiot there. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody else is there, so you're doing this shit on your own, yo. Like it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, and 90% of it you're never going to use. So
That,
that's a
that's
little hard to stay
the
motivated.
hardest thing for me is I already know how to make money in the market with what I do, so it's real hard to convince me that I need to know any of this shit. So I'm battling that little demon, if you will, but it is kind of nice. I find myself sounding like Chris Patel because I feel like he studied this shit recently. Because if I listen to the words that have come out of this man's mouth, he's regurgitating the shit from these videos.
Yeah. I think I saw he's been
That's why
studying
he's
for his
such a
soon.
keen
Yeah.
understanding because he just recently went through this shit. Because I remember him saying that he had flunked the exam by like one question or whatever. So all of this shit that he talks about, like on the macros and stuff, he was watching those portals too. I got it now.
Yeah. It's rough. My coworker, he went to take his for he failed it I think 3 times already now. So the first time you fail, you have to wait 30 days to take it again. And then the second time you fail, you have to wait 6 months to take it again. And then it's just
So you get your series 65, and you're essentially qualified to charge for financial advice, right? That's essentially what it is in layman's terms.
Essentially, yeah.
But somebody has to hold your license at some point, right? Somebody has to give you permission to charge, or can you just start, TJ's consulting group, or how does that work?
So
The
you
reason
have to establish.
I'm unclear because I don't want to work for anybody, right? I want to be the
Right.
person that the entity that I work for, and I have a business that isn't registered, but it's like DBA at the bank, and it's premium financial group.
Yeah. So you would have to establish an RIA. So
Okay.
the registered investment
That's not
advisor. So
fair.
the registered investment advisor can actually give, or that's like it's a company, but it's a non-human person. I think because it looks like Mitch in the chat sort of knows a lot more about this than I remember. But yeah, an RIA is like the entity that gives the investment advice for a fee, whereas like something like a broker dealer, they sell securities for like a commission. So that's sort of like the two camps of like the financial services industry. There's you have
Yeah.
your RIAs and then your broker dealers. Broker dealers are managed by FINRA, so the self-regulating organization. So FINRA is a self-regulated organization. It's not the actual government. It's a private entity. They just have federal in the name. But so FINRA is or actually they might not have federal in the name. FINRA governs broker dealers, and then it's NASA, so NASAA, North American Security. I don't remember the acronym for that either, but that's who manages broker dealers, and they're overall managed by like the SEC, or the SEC sort of like overarches all of it. But
Yeah. So, like, to me, my understanding is the SEC is federal, and the other guys are like the state level, if you will.
pretty much, yeah. Except FINRA is just a pain in the neck. So
Mm-hmm.
so if you're 65 and you're just an RIA, you don't have to worry about FINRA.
The way the government works. You know what I mean? Like, you have federal, and then you have the state, and then you have local, right? So to
Yeah. So
me, with that analogy or that metaphor, I feel like the SEC's federal, and then you have the state levels, and then you have your local jurisdictions. Excuse me one second. We've got Ellie joining back. How are you, Ellie?
Hey, how are ya? I
Good.
didn't know if you needed more people to participate, so I thought I'd join.
You sure y'all want to watch me flunk a couple of quizzes in a bit? So, and guys, feel free to laugh at me because I laugh at me too. This shit is humbling, yo. Like, it is humbling. Like, I did an initial, like, here, the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to take y'all through the beginning. You watch the lesson. It's like a video, and then you do the 5 questions, right? That way it's like we all know the answers to the test theoretically. You'll still see me get those wrong. But then, and here, like a month or so after doing it, I want to show y'all, like, when it gives you like a practice exam. And dude, I'm batting at like 50 to 60% on these exams right now, because you kind of want to do like a barometer check or whatever it's called. So I can tell y'all with great confidence that I don't know a lot. But I do know how to make money early puts and calls. So take that for whatever it's worth. It's very, very. My financial advisor's name's Robert Amendares, and he has a lot of the licenses. 30-year, not even 30-year-old kid, I think.
Wow.
wow.
Dude, mad respect, bro, that he was willing to just like buckle down and do it. Because I think when you're younger, it might be easier from the standpoint of you still have that college mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps.
And
I'm
less
49. I
and
haven't been in school in a long time.
and as far as myself, if I'm taking more risks when I'm younger, I'd be thinking, okay, at least I got the backing of my family. I could live at home if things fall apart. But once you get married, have kids, it's a lot harder. You got to be a little bit more conservative, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Sure. So do you guys do you mind helping me, Brandon? I was gonna go through this lesson and you could be like my tutor. How's that?
I'll see what I can do. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I data dumped everything as soon as I got that piece of paper that said pass.
Bro,
So
I fucking dude. I mean, I'm not even have the piece of paper yet, and I'm already trying to dump the shit. So
I will say, if it's any vote of confidence, or I don't know if I might get in trouble for saying this, but if Meet Kevin can do it, I think you got a pretty good shot. So
dude, a lot of people talk shit about me, Kevin. I'm sure I've said some things along the way too. The dude's pretty fucking smart though. Like he's very ambitious person, and he really knows how to monetize a channel. I mean, this dude is like a fucking CNBC, right? And it is. I remember when. What was it? When did shit hit the fan in the market? Was it like 22 for
22 was a rough year, yeah.
right? He dude, he'd put out like 3 or 4 or 5 videos a day, yo. And like, dude, I'm talking about like this, the information just came out. This dude must have like a whole crew that puts this shit together. And he's like, boom, bada bing with all the info right away. I'm like, I know he's paying the $2,000 a month to Bloomberg or whatever that is. You know what I mean? Because we pay for it on the hedge fund. I never look at the shit, but it's a tax write-off. But I'm just like, dude, this dude takes that information that he gets even before it's over there on CNBC, and he's like a breaking news network. It's kind of crazy, but it's one of those things. Anyway, excuse me, I've got a. One second.
No, I mean, like I said, no hate. It's just he's really good at, marketing, and as you said, being a YouTuber. I think just when it comes to his investment decisions, there's some that may be left to desire.
Is he still doing the real estate game? Because I know back in 2022 he was doing that like 5 videos a day and plus doing California real estate, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it's called House Hack. Is
Okay.
that? Am I saying it right? I think it's called. Y'all help me out, guys. I think it's called House Hack. So anyway, let's get into it, guys. We're gonna play. It's day number 1, Series 65. Everybody's excited. You got your rich uncle that said, "Hey, mijo." That's a little term of endearment when you're a Mexican. Oh, I'm gonna give you $1 million to work with, but go get your licenses, right? So that's kind of like the idea here. So we're gonna go at the 43-minute mark. 43-minute mark. We'll go Series 65 steady, whatever you want to call it. And then I'll have Alex do a little thumbnail of like going to school and all that stuff again. So anyway, so here we go. So I have this thing called steady.com. This was a YouTube link that showed up because I was like Series 65 exam something, and some virtual lady or whatever showed up, and there was the link in the description. So I paid like $49 a month for this thing. So just a shameless plug, like we're talking about me, Kevin. The people that are at the higher tier, I give them, and again, I'm probably already going to jail for breaking the law, but I'm giving them my password and stuff so that you don't have to pay the $49 a month. It's part of your membership. And fuck steady.com if they want to sue me. So I'm doing the Netflix thing where I'm sharing out passwords and stuff.
Yeah, we did the same thing with a different study thing, so it just gets passed around.
Off the record. You have no proof that I did that study 65. So anyway, so the way that this thing works is you basically, I can't believe there's still 135. I thought I was going to lose everybody by this section. There's people that are interested in this shit. Dude, y'all want to see how dumb I am? I got it. So essentially you have here the chapters, exam sections, your study priorities. I've passed 4 out of 8 quizzes so far. So these are 4 sections. So I want to start with the new set. We should go to the beginning, right? Screw it. We'll do the beginning. It's called the business cycle, lesson 1, business cycle definitions, parts, and examples. So the way that it works is essentially you click here, and then you watch a video, and then you take a little quiz, and then you see how you do. And if you need more help with the question, this little artificial intelligence buddy of yours can help you out, or you can rewatch the part of the video that talks about the question that you missed, if you will. So I'm going to do these in 1.25 speed because I think this is a 12-minute video. Let me know if it's big enough, because I can do this little thing here. Does that make a difference, or you didn't see a difference there? Is it just on my channel?
I didn't see a difference on my end. So
okay, cool. So I'm going to go here.
In a row, prices are falling, and
okay. I'm going to do it on 1.2.
Let's take a journey to a galaxy far, far away on the planet Econo World. I want to welcome you to the nation of Macro, where everything is big. Steaks are big, 72 ounces big. In the nation of Macro, movie theaters seat 10,000 people. Large ice coffees are big, 31 ounces. Wait a second, that's how big they already are. 31 gallons, now that's big. Nobody's falling asleep during economics lessons in Macro. Chocolate bars are twice as nice. Everything is big in Macro, and so is this lesson. Let's imagine for a few minutes that you're riding around for 4 days on a big unicycle in the business district of the city of Growth, which is the capital of Macro. It can't be that difficult to ride a unicycle, you tell yourself, with great anticipation of sitting on a seat way up high in the air. Here's where the unicycle takes you, and what you observe along the way. As you pass through the center plaza of the city, you enjoy a quick look at the downtown Central Park with its soft green grass and a peaceful river flowing through it. A few moments later, you pass by a factory that makes chocolate. Now this is really starting to get interesting. Either that or the dark chocolate I just ate is starting to kick in right about now. As you pass by, you turn and gaze into some large windows in the front of the factory that allow you a rare look at the activities taking place inside. What's going on in there, you ask yourself? Inside the factory, several machines are going at a solid pace, all connected to each other, and an assembly line is at the end of those machines, transporting chocolate bars towards an area where they will get wrapped and boxed up for distribution throughout the land of Macro. Workers are spread out across the factory, and most of them seem busy, although you notice several of them standing in a corner goofing off and blowing bubbles. For a quick second, you think to yourself, wow, what an easy job those people have. You finally pass by the whole factory and continue on your way through the city, wishing that you could take some of that chocolate with you. As you continue to daydream about chocolate, you happen to pass by the mall, noticing that it's not empty and it's not full. So this is what happens on your first day of riding the unicycle through the city. The second day, you get back on your unicycle again. As you pass through the city center, you travel the same path as before, and you're most interested in looking in on the factory to see what's going on inside. This time, as you pass by the front window and gaze into the factory, you can tell that every machine is going at full steam. It looks as though the machines are going faster this time. You look around the building, searching for the people who were standing in the corner goofing off before, but they aren't there. Every single person appears to be working very hard. And you even notice more people in there than you saw before. Chocolate bars are flying out of the machines onto the assembly line. All of a sudden, you see one of the machines break down because the workers are working it so hard. You're quite happy on this day because you just got a raise at your job, and you're on your way to the mall to spend it. When you get to the mall, you can barely find a parking spot for your unicycle because there are so many people there. So this is what happens to you during your second day of adventures. Now it's the third day. You're riding on your unicycle through the city of Growth in the nation of Macro. As you pass by the factory, you gaze into the front window once more to see what's happening in there. This time, the machines are barely going. Almost no one is working in there. Very few chocolate bars are coming out. After you pass the factory, you pass the mall, and you notice that almost nobody is there. Where did everybody go, you wonder? On the third day, things aren't looking so good. Finally, it's day 4, and you're starting to really get in great shape now because you've been riding this darn unicycle over and over again through the city, which is no joke. Your curiosity swells, and you ride past the factory. As you do, you gaze into the window. But this time, you can't see anything because the window is boarded up. Once you adjust your eyes, you can see that over the window is a sign that says, for sale, and you realize that your beloved chocolate factory has closed down. The phone rings, and you take the call while you're riding. Although everything is big in the nation of Macro, your mood is definitely not, because this is a call from your boss, and she tells you that business is slow and then lets you go. As you pass by the factory and continue to ride through the city, all you can think of is how many chocolate bars you're going to need once you get home. As you pass by the mall, you notice that there is no mall. It's been demolished by a wrecking ball. What a rough day this has been. Thankfully, you wake up the next day full of energy. You once again ride through the city, and you discover that not only has the chocolate factory started up again, but there's a new mall where the old one used to be. People are starting to drive in and park, and things are looking up once again. Today, you stop for a big iced coffee, and then your cell phone rings. As you take the call, a really big smile covers your face as a recruiter tells you that you have a new job waiting for you as a chocolate salesman. So what we've been talking about is the business cycle. The economy doesn't grow smoothly. It goes through ups and downs, which economists call economic fluctuations. It grows in a fairly predictable pattern. Although we don't know when it will happen exactly, we know the pattern that will unfold when it does happen. That pattern is a cycle. Economists call this pattern of economic fluctuations the business cycle. The National Bureau of Economic Research identifies and dates business cycles and turning points. Just like the sun comes up in the morning, reaches a peak in the middle part of the day, sets in the evening, and starts all over again the next day, the economy experiences up and down cycles that have repeated throughout history as long as we've been keeping records. Just like the ocean brings in waves of water towards the beach, one after another, the economy ebbs and flows. The business cycle has two phases, expansion and recession, sometimes called contraction, and two turning points, which economists refer to as a peak and a trough. When the chocolate factory was operating at a fairly good pace, when the mall was fairly busy, the economy of macro was experiencing an expansion. Economists say that economic output is at its potential. In an expansion, real GDP is positive, and inflation and unemployment tend to be low. When the machines were operating at full capacity, when everyone was working and the mall was packed out, and you got a raise, that's when the economy reached a peak. Economists describe this by saying that actual output is above potential output. At the peak of a business cycle, real GDP is growing quickly. Inflation is higher, and unemployment is very low. On the other hand, when business was slow, hardly anyone was working, and the mall was empty, the economy was in recession, or what some people call a contraction. Economists say that actual output is below potential output when that happens. In a recession, real GDP shrinks for at least 6 months in a row. Prices are falling, and unemployment is higher. Finally, when the chocolate factory had shut down, when the mall was closed and demolished, and you lost your job, this was the worst part of the recession, what economists call the trough. At the trough of a business cycle, economists still say that actual output is way below potential because it takes time for things to get back to where they were before the recession. Real GDP has been shrinking, but has now reached the bottom and is about to grow again. Inflation is very low, and unemployment may still be high for a while. So here we have two phases and two turning points, all happening in the same order. This is what we call the business cycle. According to the NBER, the average length of an expansion is 35 months, and the average length of a recession is 18 months, for a total of 53 months for a complete business cycle when you measure it from trough to trough. Here's a table showing the economy over the course of an entire business cycle in the land of macro, almost 1,000 years from now. As you can see, in the years 3010 and 3011, this economy was in an expansion. Prices were going up. This is inflation. But unemployment was going down. Then a year later, the business cycle peaked at 7% real GDP. Inflation was higher, and the unemployment rate dipped down to a low of 3%. By 3014, the economy began to experience recession and a trough. Real GDP was negative, prices went down instead of up, and the unemployment rate began rising substantially. Finally, in 3015 and 3016, a new expansion began. Notice that unemployment didn't start coming down until a year later. It takes companies longer to start hiring again after recession, so the unemployment rate tends to lag behind everything else. To summarize the key points, the economy doesn't grow smoothly. It goes through ups and downs or economic fluctuations. However, it goes up and down in a predictable pattern. Economists call this pattern the business cycle. The National Bureau of Economic Research identifies and dates business cycles and turning points. The business cycle has two phases, expansion and recession, or sometimes called contraction, and two turning points, a peak and a trough. In an expansion, real GDP is positive, and inflation and unemployment are low. At the peak of a business cycle, actual output is above potential output. Real GDP is growing fast, inflation is higher, and unemployment is very low. In a recession, real GDP shrinks for at least 6 months in a row. prices are falling, and unemployment is higher. Finally, at the trough of a business cycle, actual output is way below potential output. Real GDP has been shrinking, but has reached the bottom and is about to grow again. Inflation is very low, and unemployment may stay high for a while.
So just to recap, Brandon, if you actually paid attention, the little video actually makes a lot of sense. Whenever things are fucking booming, everything's like burning and churning in the chocolate factory. People have jobs, people are spending money. That stands to reason that inflation is going to be higher because prices are higher, and unemployment is low because people are working, everything's blowing and going. But whenever shit contracts, it stands to reason that not as many people are needed at the chocolate factory. Nobody's going to the mall, so prices have to come down. But then the unemployment is high because people need government assistance to survive, essentially. So that's kind of like the real quick take that I got from the video. What would be your recap on the little video?
So I would ask you, did you learn anything in there that you didn't already know? Not because you watched it before, but
Yeah, no.
your life experience and everything.
I think the one thing is there's a lot of terms, and this is why I want to go through this, because there's a lot of people here. Give me a thumbs up if you watch shit like CNBC, and I'm literally calling it shit because they promote shiny object syndrome. But they use these terms a lot, and you find yourself using these terms a lot, but you probably don't really know what they mean. Like saying the peak to the trough, because oftentimes I've used peak and trough in a stock, and I'm just talking about the share price of the stock. But I think that they might be using it in different contexts with like, where's the economy and where's the stock? Like, is the peak of the economy matching the peak of the stocks and vice versa? And I think the lessons for me are the disconnects, the asymmetrical bets that we're looking for is when there's peak, kind of like in SoFi, there's like peak performance from the company, but the fucking share price is over here in the trough level, and that creates an opportunity for you, like in my mind. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we all saw in SoFi. The people that have been in SoFi for a while, you see like, hey, the company's performing fundamentally, but there's a disconnect with the share price and stuff. And I think that a lot of times what I'm also, and I feel like I've known this for a while because I've been in the market for a while, is I think you have leading indicators, Brandon, and then you have lagging indicators. And I think these economists, and also the Fed rely on like technical analysis the way that some traders do. And most technical indicators are lagging indicators. They're real good at telling you what happened, but that's not necessarily the best tool as to what is going to happen. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to clarify. Those are the things I'm hoping to clarify as I go through these things, because I feel like the Fed has a real hard job because the tools that he uses, they might not be the best tools for the job. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I know that this is all redundant for you because you already have your answers to the test, that you've already done the mind dump, but
And so that's what I want to focus on as far as the information that I'm getting in. I just want to pass the test. I don't really care about, how I don't want to know how the watch works. I just want to know what the time is, right?
yeah, I get it. You
So
want to see the baby. You don't want to go through the labor pain.
right. So when it comes to like in this video, biggest takeaways I'm seeing is just get the terms memorized. So recession, bad, down, or however consecutive quarters with negative GDP. Trough, that's the bottom. Expansion, that's when it starts to go back up. Peak, and then that's it. That's all you need to take away from that video is what those labels are and what causes them. And then the whole thing combined is the business cycle.
Right.
That's what the test is going to tell you. It's like, what is a mixture of peaks, valleys, troughs, recession, expansion, like, or it'll say what part of the business cycle is happening. If GDP is doing this, it'll be, and then the questions will be like, is this recession, expansion, peak, trough? So that's how you want to frame when you're watching it.
That's 5 questions on the quiz. Let's take the quiz and let's put your answers in the chat. And then I'll give you my answer, then you tell me why you think I'm right or wrong based on the information there. Fair enough? And trust me, I'll get some of these wrong too. And Ellie, participate by all means. So it says here, what happens to economic output as measured by gross domestic product during a recession? So in my mind, I'm already looking for something that says contraction because they talked about contraction, right? So it says
And then
it
yeah,
contracts.
you also want to like, as far as taking tests, this is just testing. So just eliminate the ones immediately you know are not true.
Right. So contracts for 2 years, no bueno, falls more than the stock. I think the ones on the right are it's whatever. And I know that a recession is defined as 2 quarters of negative GDP, which is gross domestic product. So 2 quarters equals 6 months. So I'm going to say that this is the answer right here. It contracts for at least 6 months. That's my answer. How do you think we're doing there? And what does the chat say?
I want to say, yeah, like I said, I don't remember because I always mix up like recession and depression. Obviously, depression's worse, and I think depression is like 12 consecutive quarters. So I don't,
Yeah,
like I said,
I
I
know for a
added up a
fact.
lot of
I know
this.
for a fact from my economics class at UT Austin,
Yeah,
recession is defined of negative GDP for 2 consecutive quarters.
yeah,
And
those.
but they changed what a recession meant a year or 2 ago. Remember that?
And that's another thing. They just changed the definition, and then they say, "Oh, that actually was a recession," even though it
Yeah.
already passed. Like you said, they just use lagging indicators. It was like, "Oh, by the way, the thing that we had that was actually a recession, but we're fine now, so don't worry about it." And it was like, "Oh, okay."
So I'm going to rock with that one. Next question. It says here, and I'll make this a little bigger. Maybe that's easier for you guys to read. It says, according to this chart, what was the unemployment rate during the peak of the business cycle? So you're going to look for the peak of the business cycle. And I'm looking for the peak and says, what is the unemployment rate during the peak of the business cycle? So I'm assuming that is going to be where the GDP is the highest. So for me, that's going to be the 6% one for real GDP. So that would put the unemployment rate at 3%. Do you see? So that'll be 1993.
Yeah.
Because it gives you price levels over here. But to me, the peak, for me, the way that I understand it is the higher the GDP, the higher the peak, right? So I would say that the real GDP at 6%, that's the highest number there. And then I'm just going to go to the right and I see 3%. So that's my answer. What do you think, Tudor?
And
Am I on the
and
right
that's
side?
yeah, that's what I would say. And then I'd also just say this is most likely never going to be a question on the actual test. But you just have, like I said, so long as you know how to like that thought process will help you get the right answer on like an actual question.
Agree. So what is the chat saying? They're probably saying the same thing. So here we go. Next question. What happens to real gross domestic product, prices, and unemployment at the peak of the business cycle? So and again, so not to like toot my own horn, but y'all familiar with this thing called the LSAT, the law school admissions test? It's where you want to go to law school, you have to take a test like SATs. You go to school, right? Standard aptitude test. Yeah, so the perfect score is 180. I got a 172. So I am a test taker per se, but I also did Kaplan, and then there was a lot like Brandon, like, hey, this is the fucking shit you need to know for the exam. Their whole method is they're not going to take you on they're not going to go to Camp Macro or any of that shit. You know what I mean? They're just going to be like, this is the shit you need to know, go study, right? In the logic section, if your brain is logical, it's pretty easy for you. If not, you're going to have a hard time. So what happens to real GDP, prices, and unemployment at the peak of a business cycle? So we already know that if at the peak that things are going real good, unemployment's got to be real low. So I'm looking for something that says unemployment is low, and then the prices are increasing in my mind. So it says real GDP shrinks. Shrinks doesn't equate to peak, so that automatically can eliminate that one, Brandon. And then it says GDP shrinks. I'm already eliminating that one as well. This one here, it says real GDP grows, but I'm feeling like prices need to go up and unemployment should be low. So that one can't be right either. Real GDP grows, prices fall, and unemployment is low. That one's close, but I think prices go up because everybody's gainfully employed. Everybody's causing inflation because they're out spending money. So I feel like I haven't found the right answer yet. So I'm going to go to the last one. Real GDP grows, prices rise, unemployment's low. That's the best answer. So I'm going to go with that one. What do you think, Brendan?
I think that is right, but I also just hate that question because, as you know, if we look at an actual chart and we see, oh, something's at the peak, then there's only one direction that it's going to go from there, and it's down. So it's asking like what's, current at, said peak, but my thought process is to think what's coming next. But yeah, for this question, I think the answer is they do want to see the GDP is growing, prices are going up with that, and then also unemployment's low as, to tie it all in. So that's probably the answer that they want for this question.
Agreed. Which of the following are the two phases and the two turning points of the business cycle? So we already know there's peak, there's trough, there's expansion, there's contraction, right? That's what we know from Captain Macro or whatever it was called. So we're looking for that. We're looking for expansion and recession, peak and trough.
That's it. You already know that's the one, right?
Yeah. Then I always feel like these fuckers want to put the best answer out there, though, right?
And
So
that's another thing with the test is usually never go back and change your answers.
Yeah.
You just go with your gut. If you see it, just go because 9 times out of 10, if you go back and change your answer, it's going to be wrong. Just leave it as it is.
Yeah, that's the answer, dude. I don't even think we need to look. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Economists recognize that the economy doesn't grow smoothly, but in regular patterns. Which of these terms best describes that? This whole thing was about the business cycle. So we already know that. So I think we go next, and it says we got 100, and we're in business.
Yep. And then another thing Mitch put in the chat, super important, read the full question, read the full answer.
Yeah, agreed.
It's definitely key.
But one thing that I do like, and I've always taken tests this way, and this is something that they stressed in Kaplan. And then there was another one, dude. I can't remember for the life of me. Princeton Review. I think it was called Princeton Review. Because I did both of them for the LSAT. And they say when you read the question, you need to formulate key words that you know you're going to find on the answer based on the information in your brain, versus start reading the answers. So then it's like your brain is going to like go to that because that what's on the page is substantiating the stuff that was already in your brain. You know what I mean? And it's just little things like that, but also just like take your time, because these little fuckers like to use little words like accept and of the following, which is best. I mean, I feel like they're just designed to like trip you up a little bit.
Yeah, it's all just the devil's in the tiniest little wording. That's why they say just you want to read the full question, read the full answer, and then, like I said, once you see one that you know for sure is that, just don't second guess it. It's more than likely the right answer.
Yeah, no.
And you'll just trip yourself up reading the other question, because then you'll be like, oh, this one sounds a little bit more right, but the original one you landed on is the right answer. So
yeah, so that one's easy because you just watch a video. They give you 5 questions that are pretty easy, but where it gets tough, we'll do 3 or 4 of these, and then in a couple of weeks we'll do like a practice exam with like 30 questions, and then I want the chat to participate, and we're all going to realize that if your name's not Brandon, that we don't really know that much, and that is the purpose of this exercise is. Know who you are in the market, and more importantly, know who you are not. Know what you know, and really know what you know, but be cognizant and aware of the things that you don't know. And going through this a little bit, I probably spent like 2 or 3 hours on this platform so far offline. And I can honestly say that I don't know that much in the larger scheme of things. Like, it's already started talking about like bonds and treasury bills and all of this other shit that is just like way over here in my sphere of competence. So why is that important? Because whenever I'm looking to bring a stock into the portfolio, if it is in areas that I'm going to have to learn shit that I'm just not even familiar with, I stay away. I'm going to give you guys an example. Chris Patel was like, hey, have you looked into TLT? And I was like, dude, it is like not even in the vicinity of my sphere of competence. So if there's no competence there, there's certainly no confidence. I don't even know how it works because I don't really know how T-bills work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never played in that space. I go like every other fucking investor, want to be, good guy at the market, making money. One of the three things that I look at every day, or two things that I look at, is look to see where the VIX is, because it gives me an idea what kind of premiums we can get selling puts and calls. And I look at the 2-year and the 10-year. Because I feel like CNBC has conditioned me to look at that. And then I'm like, okay, like, so what does the 2-year and the 10-year tell me? Does it really tell me if it's risk on or if it's risk off? I used to want to know how much money was in the money market funds and all this stuff, Brandon. Like, I'm just saying, dude, I've experimented with a lot of little things. And at the end of the day, I don't know how much of it is necessary.
I'd throw maybe the SPY on that list too. I don't know if you check that as much, but
I did. SPYs, the Qs. I look
Yeah.
at the SPYs, the Qs, the IWM, the basics, right? Just to get an idea. And then the other thing that I look at, my absolute go-to move for me, is the heat map.
Yeah.
I just look at it and I'm like, well, does it look more red? Does it look more green? Because dude, the SPY can be negative for the day, but then you look at the heat map and it looks mostly green, but it's because it's a weighted index, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
how to understand those things. That these fat kids on the seesaw, they did the scales.
That's right. Yep.
So just little things like that. So those are the things that I look at. And then Mitch is saying something that is so huge. Bonds run the world. I don't know if you guys know that, Brandon. You can speak a lot more intelligently than I can on it. But the bond market is like twice as big as the stock market.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really. I should pay attention more to bonds than I do, but yeah, they do play a large factor, especially the with the whole vigilantism going on right now. But yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that I thought was pretty interesting. So it's right here. This Google AI is pretty cool, by the way. I talk a lot of shit about Google, but I'm starting to consider it as an investment again. I think my since the election's over, I'm not feeling real political anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I might be, dude, they're the cheapest Mag 7. Like, by every metric that I'm familiar with, this is the best buy of all the Mag 7.
Right.
And they're an absolute money printer. I feel like their left narrative is that they, like, I feel like there's a little too left for me, but if I can just get out of my own shit and just focus on making dollars, this might be a good one. So it says the bond market is larger than the stock market, and the global fixed income market is typically 1/3 to 3 times the size of the global equity market. In 2023, the global bond market was valued at 140 trillion, while the global equity market cap was 115 trillion. So interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. I'm just like, I'm addicted to like learning. So that's really the reason that like the Series 65 and all that stuff appeals to me. Because I mean, if this is our craft, if this is what like you want to be doing for a living, doesn't it stand to reason that you should always be trying to just like up your game, so to speak? Like if you're a basketball player in the off season, you're not that good with the left hand. Don't you want to spend that off season working on your left hand?
Yeah, and I'm doing the same thing now. Like after so first I had to get my life insurance license because that's just like the foot in the door. And then I was like, okay, now I want to step it up. I want to actually do real advising stuff. I got my 65, and then now I signed up to get my CFP because I know that that's just a whole nother level. That's like you're getting your master's degree essentially.
Right.
So life insurance is like high school, 65 is like your undergrad, and then getting your master's is a CFP.
Agreed, dude. And then I guess the one thing, like going through this process, Brandon, I realized that I'm like junior high school level for the amount of money that I'm working with. So I feel like the knowledge needs to match the bankroll. This is just a personal thing. Doesn't necessarily have to, because I feel like I have selling cash secured puts and cover calls pretty down pat. But there's things that I could get better at, like revisiting my lack of love for the charts, because I used to really be into the charts. Dude, and they're really, really good at helping you out with some ideal entry and exit points. But I do not look at charts very much. I just don't. I'd rather read an article. I'd rather watch a video, an interview or something, because I'm like a lot more, I'm a story guy, so I like the fundamentals.
I'm the same way. I don't really pay too much. Like obviously the charts will tell you what is it? The it's kind of like just the stock price will tell you the like the temperature or something, but then like the value of the company is like the climate or whatever the analogy for that is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'm just like, but the fundamentals tell the story of the company, right? Like where they're at. But then the charts do kind of mirror that over longer periods of time.
Right.
There's shorter periods of time where there's a disconnect there, and it's like one of those objects in the mirror are closer than they appear type thing. Like there's those disconnects, and that's where people that know how to pounce on opportunities, they tend to make a lot of money. But over the long period of time, I don't know if it was Peter Lynch that said that in the short term, there might not be a correlation between the company and the stock price, but over the long term, there's 100% correlation between the way the company's performing and how the stock is performing.
Revert to the mean.
So anyway, my wife's telling me, one second.
No worries.
My little consulting business is thriving. I have to pick up a $5,000 check. So
Wow.
anyway,
Okay.
so can you walk me through? Can you and Mitch on the chat walk me through? I wish that Mitch would click this link. I don't know if he's allowed to though, because he has like maybe more licenses than you.
I don't even know if me being on here would get me in trouble. I'd say
There's only like 6 people.
purely
I think we're good.
purely entertainment. I'll this is
No,
if you want actual advice, book a meeting. Well, I'm not soliciting my business. Book a meeting with someone else.
Yeah. No, my thing is I'm talking about how to set up my little deal.
Yeah.
Because I do bring in a little bit of money now with the members and stuff like that. And the reason that I was very reluctant to do so is I'm in a position where we don't need the money. That's one. Two, I have a servant's heart. Like, dude, I want to help people to win because I feel like people have helped me to win. So it's just like my thing is like pay it forward. I think that if people are always trying to like pay it forward, the world would just be a pretty cool place in general. Because I think that you find that whenever you're nice and you associate with other nice people, it kind of helps out. But I want to make sure that I set things up the right way and I don't ever get in trouble. Because and then I want to do like the Wheeler seminars in person and stuff. So there would obviously be a fee for those seminars and shit. And I just want to make sure that I'm covering my bases because I don't want to work for anyone else. Like, so I only want to get the licenses or this little thing just to give me like some credibility, if you will, that I did go through this painstaking process to watch a bunch of fucking virtual monkeys on a unicycle or whatever the hell was going on there at Camp Macro or City of Macro or whatever it was called. And all that. And then just for my own personal knowledge, dude, like I'm a very curious person in nature. And I want to know, dude, I want to know like that way when I watch CNBC, I want to know, does that person really know what they're talking about, or are they just a good talker?
Yeah.
Like what are your thoughts on like the Fun Strat guy? He's my favorite guy on television.
The Fun Strike guy.
Tom, what's his name? Tom Lee?
Oh, I like Tom Lee. I do like Tom Lee. I think, yeah, because I mean, I'd say a lot of the times there's no secret to investment. Like we all know, there's no secret. Nobody has any secret sauce. Just Tom Lee, I think he keeps it real based on the available data, historical data, trends. I think what he knows a lot about is like human psychology, and I think that's what's reflected in a lot of what he says. So that's why I really like what he has to say most of the
And then
time.
the other guy that I like a lot is the farmer Jim guy. He's a perma bull also typically. And then there's another dude, God, what is his name? Help me out. White dude, blondish hair. He's real bullish on Uber. He was bullish on SoFi there for a while, but then he stopped talking about it. He's gotten his ass kicked on a couple of investments too. He comes out on CNBC all the time. No, definitely not Jim Cramer.
Kramer.
I've watched a lot of Jim Cramer over the years that I find them highly entertaining.
That's why they keep him
down with Josh Brown. That's him.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys, man. This chat is awesome. Yeah, Josh Brown. I like him. I like what's the Quick lady's name? Is it Becky Quick?
I don't know any of these people's names. I tune a lot of them. The only one I listen to is pretty much Tom Lee.
CNBC right now, the guy that I'm talking about. Let me see if I'm able to show because I have YouTube TV and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That I pay like $79 a month for, but I'm not going to pay premium. Do you have YouTube Premium or no?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, right? Feels like it.
I just put an ad blocker on and I'm good.
So here it is. Oh, here we go, right here. Watch.
Absolutely, no, it looks good, and we've owned it. It's been in the ETF in the past. I always say it's the ETF. The ETF has owned it in the past, but the revenue growth is not what you're getting at MasterCard.
Fine.
All right. There's no I in team. There is a me.
There's a Joe and Joe T, though.
There is a me.
You know.
So I figured out how Mitch shares his CNBC all the time. So learning things, man. I'm learning how to navigate these things.
Maybe also going to say, Palantir 6210. Just every now and then, just say Palantir's price.
Yeah, right. Is that like the standard for if you want to do a stream now?
Yeah.
Dude, can I talk to you about my Palantir position?
Let's talk about it.
Okay, because this is going to be the Wheelers episode tonight, so sneak peek on it. So I don't know how much.
I saw earlier you sold some shares. Are those the ones that got called away at 12?
Yeah, so I did way more than that. Yeah. So what happened is the other day, the shares were up like 86,000, but the cover calls were down 84,000 because the net delta was like, when you own shares, it's 100 delta, right? Yeah. So now we're talking in my sphere of competence, okay? So when you own shares, it's 100 delta. It's like dollar for dollar. Delta equals dollars, right? Just to keep it simple in layman's terms. Well, the cover calls were essentially like negative 100 delta already. It was no bueno, So all the money that I'm making on one side, I was losing on the other side. So no matter if Palantir went to 100, I was going to make like maybe net $3,000 total because I'm getting my ass kicked on the cover calls because they're just like deep underwater. So I decided if I was going to start a brand new position right now with Palantir, how would I do it? What's the only way that I could do it? So I was like, I'd have to buy some long calls because I'm not interested in buying shares that I think are overpriced. It's a lot cheaper to buy overpriced leaps than to buy overpriced shares. 40 to 50 cents on the dollar, typically, depending on the delta that you choose. So I bought them slightly out of the money. I bought 65 calls for January of 2027. So I'll show it right here. These were big moves, dude. So
yeah, that's a long time.
So right here, I spent 52 grand and 51 grand for qualifying for more exposure to the upside, right?
Right.
On calls. But then I was like, well, I need to bring money through the door because I don't think I'm getting a good deal on these calls. So I'm not going to wait for them to run up. I think the chances of the pound turret going down are higher than the chances of going up. So let me bring some money through the door. I want a rebate. So I sold these covered calls as a rebate. But then I took it a step further. I bought to close the $12 covered calls for $240. And then I sold the shares for $298. So that's $58,685 to the good. If I waited until January, I'm going to get $60,000, right? Because $12 a share times 5,000 shares is 60 grand. So I was like, well, I'll take a hickey of about $1,300 so I can get the money now. That was the justification there. Payday loan. And then I did the same thing on the covered calls. I gave back $446 in covered call premium to sell the shares for $894,000. Obviously, you can see that those shares will be worth more money, but it doesn't really matter because the money that I would make over here, I would have just had to pay like $470 over here. You know what I mean? Because this was like, I'm making $1, but I'm losing $1 essentially. So I was like, I'm going to free up all of that money because now I got about another $1 million to work with net, and now I have exposure to the upside on 5,000 shares via the long calls, and I still kept 4,000 shares because I have covered calls on those at $45, so I'm not as underwater on those. Those are still manageable, but the 35 ones were kind of being a pain in the ass. The $12 ones were certainly being a pain in the ass. So I'm like, I'm going to stay long shares on these guys right here. I can still manage these. It's not the end of the world. I look here, it's $17. So there's still plenty of extrinsic value. And if I look at my delta, it's 81. So for every dollar, I still have a net 19 or 20 bucks that I'm making, right?
Yeah.
So that was the idea. And I freed up all of that money, and now I was able to sell a bunch of puts over here on SOX, on SOXL, Celsius, Hood, Intel, Palantir, essentially. Like I had all of that money. 1 second, I got something in the background here. There we go. I'm not sure what the background. You hear the background noise?
No, I don't hear it any. No.
Okay, I've got background noise. Okay. So anyway, so that was the game in a nutshell. So then now this was the thought process. Palantir goes up, my leaps are printing, right?
Right.
Palantir goes down, I'm liquid to buy the shares again. But it's got to drop like 30%. If not, then I'm just it's essentially the taxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's that thing right there. Did it go away? It's the it's the agent.
Is it coming from me?
I don't know. Yeah, it can't be anything else. I don't have anything else open aside from the video details thing. No, we're good. I think it's gone away. Not sure. But anyway, so that was the idea. The idea was I want to qualify for upside. I can hear that in the background. Y'all can hear that? Is it your TV? Do you have a TV in the background?
No, I don't. I mean, I can like hear some muffling like in the office behind me. Like, I don't think it's loud enough for my headphones.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. So yeah, I think that I wanted to position myself that if Palantir went down, I could rebuy that position and then start fresh with covered calls on those as well. And then the fact is I had already locked in a lot of money along the way with premiums. So I was like, okay with giving money back on those covered calls, and I could get long via virtually with the leaps, synthetically, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I feel a lot better because this is what I realized. Again, you go through these business cycles, you go through these emotional cycles, you go through these life cycles, You had a game plan, but now you're here and things sometimes change on the fly, right? You're a coach of the football team, the star quarterback goes down, you have to change the game plan a little bit, right? So I realized that, hey, this position is profitable like $1 million right now. And I don't want to ride these shares all the way back down to 30 when I could lock in a win here. I could redeploy the capital via cash secure puts elsewhere. I still have enough money to buy these damn shares if there's a crash like 30 or 40 bucks. So I think that I had a game plan, but I think it's prudent to protect the portfolio a little bit unnecessarily, to have an unnecessary drawdown when I could have done something a little bit differently. And I also wanted that feather in my cap to say, hey, I locked in a big win too. Because you're not going to go broke doing that. So there was a lesson that I could teach myself and hopefully on the channel saying, hey, the hardest thing to do in the stock market is to take a profit sometimes. But it's also the surefire way to lock in a win is to take the profit and then not feel like, oh my God, the Pouncer community is no longer going to accept me because I only have 50 long calls and 4,000 shares. I mean, my God, like for real. That's still a bigger position than probably 80% of the Pouncer community. You know what I mean? Like the retail pound, the people that we know. Obviously, there's a lot of people with big money in Palantir, but I'm just saying it's not like I don't have a position in Palantir. So, what do you think? How did I play it? How did I play it, Brandon?
And you definitely did it a lot better than I would have done. I would have just closed out of the short calls and just said, all right, I'll take it on the chin. Like I get it, those are gone. I'll just get back some premium. But yeah, I mean, you probably know. I just don't take the time to really do all the math like that, and so I just like to keep it simple. That's it.
So this is what I could have done differently. I could have bought leaps earlier because I was DCA in 500 shares at a time in like the 30s because I'm like, I'm going to get these shares called away. So let me DCA. The better move would have been to buy 5 leaps at a time and not sold cover calls against those leaps. Be like, if this thing's going to run, well, let me buy the instrument that's going to give me the biggest payout. That's the leaps. You know, so I'm like, let me do that. And then I can always exercise those leaps and then take ownership of them after they've already printed. Or I could sell some covered calls again. You know what I'm saying? I could do other things more capital efficient.
Yeah, I mean, I also wish I bought Microsoft in 2008. You know,
and I did, only to sell it in like 2012 or 13.
Yeah.
So it's again, I feel like it's easier to buy right than it is to sell right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
It's easier to buy cheap. It's easier to buy low than to sell high. Again, that's the game, right? Buy the dip, sell the rip. That's kind of the game that we're in when we're trading a little bit. But dude, it's easy to buy the dip. I have a hard time selling the rip.
Yeah, it just comes down to essentially like, you know, your goals, what you are trying to accomplish when you like get into it, like, you know, what your timeline looks like. You know, it's just super rudimentary and basic things, but at the end of the day, that's the principles that we're all trying to work around is what's our personal goals, what's our timeline, what are we looking to accomplish with everything, you know, with every trade that we're making, and what's the end goal that like what are we going to be happy with walking away from?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me answer this question, guys, and then I gotta go eat because my stomach is like killing me. I had a late workout last night. I want this rowing machine, dude. It's amazing, dude. I did like 20-minute rowing workout yesterday, then 10 minutes on the bike. I did 2 cycles on my little, I had like these stations on this Power Tech machine or whatever. So I'm able to do like 4 or 5 exercises back to back. Dude, 40 minutes and I was out of there, bro, and I was drenched in the garage, yo. So rowing for 20 minutes, it turns out it's really freaking hard.
Full body. I'm gonna get a jump rope. I'm gonna start jump roping for my cardio because I can't be bothered to do running. And then yeah, but I heard it's got a lot of benefits to it. So that's my fitness journey.
Real good for your bone density.
That was another thing. Yeah.
I jump rope a little bit as well, but dude, it gives me chin splits.
Okay.
But I'm 49. You look like you're not a day over 29. You know what I mean? So
27.
yeah, so it's a different thing though, dude. Like when you get older, like I actually take collagen, I take these chewies right here, called joint support.
Yeah.
It's a company called Isogenics. I pay like $60 for these things. They work really, really, really well because I still have like the strength and stuff to like lift pretty heavy weights if I want to. But bro, I pay the price like 2 or 3 days now versus so now I gravitate towards high reps, low weight,
Yep.
just to get the blood flowing. And then the rowing thing, dude. I've only done 2 workouts on it so far. I just got the machine, but my God, dude, the body feels so much better because it's like the body's involved. It's not just like little parts of the body. And bro, it's kind of becoming like my go-to move. That one in the bike, and then I'll walk on an incline on the treadmill. I call it death row. I have the treadmill in the middle. I have the rower, and then behind it I have the little spin bike thing. So
That's
it's like
my hell. I couldn't do it.
it's like my highway to hell right there.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah.
I barely got on the Stairmaster, and I do maybe like 10 minutes, and then I'm good for a week. So
Yeah. Let me end with this one right here. TJ, can you explain your 25-25-50 allocation in detail? Apologies, it's a bit off topic. I covered this on the seminar at length, but essentially in a nutshell is you have 100 grand that you want to buy of that stock, that you would buy of that stock if it's at your freaking go-to price. Let's say SoFi at $8. You're like, I don't even have to think twice. If SoFi was at $8 today, I'm going to go all in. That's your all in. 100% is all in, right? We can all agree on the math. The issue with that is if it's a high conviction stock, it's typically not at a good price for whatever reasons. That's the way the stock market seems to work. Tesla is pretty high conviction for a lot of people right now. Meta is very high conviction. The Mag 7 is very high conviction, but they're also at very high prices typically. That's why they're high conviction, right? Because they've already proven themselves. So what I do is I'm like, okay, well, I'll nibble with 25%. So I'll nibble with 25 grand, kind of hoping that it tanks to a better entry point so that I could deploy the other 25 grand. And then I really wanted to tank a lot more so that I could buy a bulk of the position at lower levels. And that's the way that I scale into a position. So sometimes if you see a small position in the portfolio that is very high conviction, is because I didn't get low enough prices. And that is where my discipline comes in. I'm not going to buy real heavy at super high prices. I'm trying to change that strategy a little bit with Amazon because Amazon gave me lower prices a year or two ago in 22. And I bought heavy, like 1,500, 2,000 shares. And then I sold because I was like premium drunk. I'm like, it's not giving me substantial premium. I'm only playing these for the upside. I need cash flow, etc. But then going into this next year, I'm like, I'm deviating a little bit from that. I want like 30 to 40% of the portfolio to be focused more on capital appreciation and capital preservation. And then I can use the rest of the portfolio plus my margin to sell puts and bring in the cash flow. So things change as you hit milestones in the portfolio because I'm trying to do everything that I can within reason to where like 10 becomes my new base. So I'm trying to take some beta, some volatility out of the portfolio. And the way to do that is to reduce share ownership. You know what I mean? But still maintain the upward exposure when I think that we're still in a crazy bull market. So anyway, that's a 25-25-50 strategy. You don't have your ideal entry point, you're going with 25%. It starts getting better, you go with the other 25%, and it starts getting really, really good. You're like, man, I wish I hadn't already deployed the first 50%, but here's the last 50, and you average down, and then you start selling aggressive cover calls at that point. So it's when people are going to look at it, oh, he's getting his ass kicked, the position's going bad. That's actually the best case scenario for me because now I was able to accumulate more shares. it would have been better if I would have been more patient and I could have gotten more shares at better prices. But that's where I'm able to at least participate selling cash secured puts in a stock that I feel might be a little bit overvalued. But I just go in, I essentially go in smaller. If that helps out. Anything else you'd like to add, Brandon, before we shake out of here?
All right, that's it. I mean, I gotta hop into another meeting right now, so that's perfect timing.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys so much. This is TJ the Wheel Joe signing off with Brandon. As always, may your sky stay blue, stock screen. Peace out. God bless you guys.
Thanks for having me on, TJ. Bye bye.
Take care, man. Appreciate you.